Back to another thrilling Latitude live stream. Today, our subject is going to be advanced scenario creation for a dungeon. And since I am not very advanced in the ways, I have asked. We have a couple people join us that are more advanced in the way of doing scenario creations. We've got Nikolai or Ben, and then we have Tim and or Van, as you know them in the community. They've been on before as well, so excited to dive in. We did a session like this a few weeks ago where we went over some of the basics of setting up a scenario. We talked. We probably ended up talking about some more advanced-ish feeling things like how context is built. That was my fault because I think I walked us down that path. But I do think it helps from a creator perspective to know a little bit about how context is constructed. But today we'll get into some more things. Maybe Tim, do you want to kind of give us an overview of some of what we expect to cover in the next hour? And I know that live streams can take a path sometimes, but yeah, what are some of the things that we want to talk about today?
So today, the plan is for us to cover placeholders. What are they? What are some of the default ones? Why you'd want to use them? Some good and bad practices involving them. How to switch your creation mode to have different styles of scenarios. And we also plan to cover those other styles, which are character creator and multiple choice. And then if we have some time after that, there's a few like little tips and tricks we can go into.
Cool. That is a lot to cover in an hour.
Yep.
We'll see how far we get. And if we don't have time, we can always do another session of these, which is okay too.
Yep.
Cool. Well, why don't we jump in and get started? We'll get right into it.
I want the screen.
There we go.
All right, so I have just opened into a fresh scenario. We covered that last time. You can get into this screen by clicking on your profile picture, clicking create, and then it should take you to this editing screen. Last time we covered what you would like put in your title, description, your tags, the basics of what story cards are, the basics of what the different plot components are. Today, I would like to cover placeholders. And we sort of go over that right here in the opening box. It shows you are $ curly bracket character dot name curly bracket. That is a placeholder. Placeholders allow you to present a question to any player who plays your scenario, and they can write in whatever they want, which will then be put into the scenario, allowing them to customize their experience. So, for example, character.name is one of our default ones. If you have this in your scenario, it will have a special question asking for the character's name. In addition to that, we also have, I believe it's character.gender.
Yep.
Yep.
That's it.
This is a new default that was recently added. This will ask whether you are male, female, and I think other is the other option.
Yeah, and the other one is like a text box where you can write
Yep.
in.
So I'll just have these two as a quick example. And then let's say you wanted to ask like what type of weapon you use in the scenario. You could write, what weapon do you use? So normally you would have a story to go along with this. This is just a quick example of what you can write for a placeholder. So if I click play, it's asking me what my character name is. Then it's going to ask me what gender I am. And then it's going to present me the option to write in a weapon.
And you can see in the top right, the steps of the scenario creation, where like which placeholder you're at now, which is also something that was newly added.
Yep. So if I want to, you can click back and you can go back and change your answer. You can even go back and change anything you've typed in. So let's just say gun. And it will populate Katie, female gun.
So here's a question. How so it's one thing that's kind of nice. It's nice that uh, the whole kind of question setup is done for you, so you don't have to worry about that. And so maybe a couple questions about the placeholders. Do they only work inside of the opening, or can you use them in other parts, like other plot components? I was about to rattle off like 5 questions. Why don't I start with one question?
So placeholders, I believe, Ben, you recently added the ability for it to work in any plot component now, right?
Yes, they work in author's note, they work in plot essentials,
Yep.
they work in story summary, they work in AI instructions, they work in the opening, they work in story card titles, story card bodies, story card triggers, I believe.
Yep. And they do work in notes.
Yep.
So no matter where you have your placeholder, they will appear. So if
And
go ahead, Ben.
if this placeholder has the exact same spelling in, like, let's say you have two placeholders. You have character.name in two locations. Then it will only ask the question once if it's spelled exactly the same.
So I'm gonna show that off right here by putting a capital U instead of a lowercase u. So when we run the scenario, it's gonna ask us twice what weapon we use. So what weapon do you use lowercase? What weapon do you use uppercase?
Yep, and to prevent that, you just have to spell it exactly the same.
Mm-hmm. And another neat part is if you have the exact same spelling in other plot components, they will carry over to those other plot components. So I just had gun. I also have it spelled the exact same way in AI instructions, and I also have it spelled the exact same way in the name for the story card. So it copied it over to each one.
And to be clear, so you can use this in titles of story cards, description of story cards.
Yep.
Would you use them in triggers as well then?
Yep, you can use them in
Yes.
triggers.
Awesome. So all the things. So as you're setting up placeholders, and this is a little bit less of a functional question, but more strategic. So one uh, I guess kind of trade-off I imagine that you make as a creator is thinking about how many placeholders to use, because like in theoretically you could have 30 placeholders, which would be kind of cool because then as a player you could fine tune and customize all the different characters and properties of the characters. You could specify their height and their age and all this stuff. But every time you're adding a placeholder, you're also adding a new step for the whole setup process, which I imagine there's a point where there's like diminishing returns and you're not getting it's no longer as fun. Like it's just like, let me get into the story and play. How do you think about how how do you think about how many placeholders to use? And, are there times where it makes sense to do more and other times where it makes sense to do less? Or is there sort of like a best practice that you found for how many to use?
I would say in general, it's probably best to do like keep your max around 5 for most cases. That will prevent placeholder fatigue, as we call it. But when you're creating a scenario, it also depends on like what you need from that scenario. Like, what do you need to be customizable? What don't you? What can you get away with having like a neutral term instead of like the customizable term to take the place? Like filling in like pronouns. So let's say you have a gender customization, and then you have the scenario talking about your character as he, she. Well, depending on how you have your sentences set up, you might feel like you need like capital H customization for he, she, for like the start of a sentence, and then you would need a lowercase version for like in the middle of the sentence. I've
Mm.
done that on some scenarios, and in general, it's probably not good to do that because it's a lot of just repeated typing, and
I
it
think
does cause exhaustion.
I think both of us are guilty of using too many placeholders a lot of the
Yep.
time. I have a few scenarios where like I like had the player customize their own character and like a companion character, and that often was a little too many.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can imagine like there's at some point the players are going to get exhausted with some of that too. So that's something to pay attention to,
Mm-hmm.
um, or or maybe even at the very like. Although there are some scenarios where I think people make it kind of more clear up front in in the scenario description that there are a lot of customizations. So like if you are a player who likes that, it's nice to at least kind of say, hey, get ready. You're going to fill out a lot of properties before you get into the game. I'd
Yeah,
also be curious. Oh, sorry. Go ahead and react. Sorry.
yeah. Uh, yeah, that's something nice to do, like in the title or in like tags, like something about like the customizability or like even in the description. Just it's yeah, it's nice to let players know what will happen when they click play.
Yeah. So, so here's another question I have with placeholders. Um, what placeholders do you find are actually the most useful? Because I've had scenarios where there are a bunch of different customizations, and like I think name, gender, those are ones that I think are really clear and obvious how it could be helpful. Maybe a name of like the primary uh, kind of NPC that you're going to kind of be interacting with. That one often makes sense. Outside of that, like what are some of the placeholders that you feel like have the most impact on the player experience and are the most worth kind of including? Like there's been some for instance, like I've played some where it's like, tell me what color of hair you have and what color your eyes are and what and maybe for a particular scenario that is genuinely important. But I've often wondered at times like, does this one does this placeholder actually help drive the story forward? Curious if you have any kind of thoughts or feelings about um, which types of placeholders make the biggest difference for the story.
I've always found that broader categories of placeholders have more value than too narrow ones. So let's say instead of asking for eye color, hair color, and like height, just have one placeholder that asks about like player appearance.
Mm-hmm.
Like just a question like describe anything here that you want your character to look like. I'm also a huge uh, um, advocate for a placeholder for character personality because a lot of the times, like whether you like it or not, the AI will talk for your character. You can prevent it with AI instructions, but sometimes it like will still slip through, and some people like it. Like I like when the AI talks for me. Um, and setting the player personality, like the player character personality, just makes that so much more immersive because oftentimes it just predicts what you wanted to say anyway at that certain point if you set the personality, if you tune it in right.
Makes sense.
Yeah, I mostly agree with Ben. When I make scenarios, it's usually character name, gender, age, what do you look like, and then usually like a fifth one that pertains to the scenario.
Hmm. And then yeah, because I could almost see like some of those, uh, like even like the personality ones, I could see this being strong for like story cards, maybe less so for including into the prompt for the for
Yeah,
the
not
story
in the
start.
prompt, but like plot essentials, story cards. There's also some fun things you can do with like placeholders in AI instructions, like
Hmm.
Like how wild do you want the narrator to be?
Yeah, you could do that. You could say like describe the themes you want in your story, and then you could put that in either AI instructions or author's note.
Hmm. Gotcha. Cool. I
another
probably asked
fun
way too
thing
many
is
questions about
to
placeholders.
an- another fun thing is to add the character name into AI instructions for like lines that need to reference a specific character.
So we call that nesting placeholders. So you could have an example like uh, you would have to type it out something like uh, your friend is friend's name, and then you could have uh, something like is an elf or dwarf. Yeah. So this is called nesting placeholders. You'll have a question where it starts with one, so the name, and then it fills it in into the next placeholder. Ben, maybe you can explain a little bit.
Yeah. So the way it works is it inserts the answer to the first question into the question into the second question. So it like gives the character like the placeholder filling out step a bit more personality, if you will.
Hmm.
Because instead of having to ask like, is your what is your friend's name? What is your friend's gender? What is your friend's thing? Like you can just have it then say, okay, what is your friend's name? Bob. What is your friend's and then instead of what is your friend's gender, it says what is Bob's gender.
Gotcha. Can you show the syntax for that again?
Yep. Oh. So you'll have the first placeholder, which is friend's name, inside of a second placeholder.
Gotcha. Okay.
Hmm. If you are going to do nested placeholders, you need to make sure you watch your you close your brackets correctly, because if you don't, or if you have too many, that can throw off the syntax very easily.
Yeah. So here's a question then. Like, is there a how do because that brings up a question like what order do placeholders get responded to? Is it based on like order that they show up in the? I mean, because one thing now is like we've got you can do placeholders in all these different sections. So how does the system determine which ones to ask first? And
So
like in the case of these nested ones, how does it know to ask the friend's name first and not like what's the
So
logic there?
if it's in a single like location, then it will always ask in the order they are set in that location. So if it's in like plot essentials, then it will always ask the order of the placeholders in the plot essentials. There is an order for which get asked first, like which plot components placeholders get asked first. Don't have it at the top of my mind right now.
No, but that's helpful to at least know that like, I mean, because my guess is that like the plot essentials, the story start, those would be the most important ones. There probably is a sequence. We should probably, if it isn't already, we should probably put that in the guidebook article about placeholders.
mhm.
Like what is the ordering? But this is pretty. But it's good to just know like it follows the order that you're declaring it. So like in Tim's example, it makes sense that you would want to ask the friend's name before doing sort of the nested thing. That would simplify stuff.
Yep.
Cool.
If you, yeah, if you didn't have this question first, it would basically have this as the placeholder
Yeah,
because the syntax would be broken.
makes sense.
Any other questions about placeholders?
I don't know. I feel like I asked a million placeholder questions. We probably went deeper on placeholders than you wanted to, but I had questions. Trying to see if there's any in the comments that seems to be mapping pretty well to what we've been talking about. We've got people helping each other out in the comments too, so I think we're good to move on to your next topic if you're ready.
Yep. Okay. So as I said before, there are different creation styles. So right now, when you just make a fresh scenario, it's always going to be on what we call a story scenario. You can change your creation style by going to the opening component, clicking the little gear up here in the corner. This will let you select story, which you should already be on, multiple choice, or character creator. The next one we're going to cover is character creator. So, character creator, unlike story scenarios, work very differently. They will usually have an opening prompt, which will then influence how the story is generated. It is generated by whatever story cards the player selects during character creation. So,
Yeah.
Vin, if you want to go
So
into that while I do this.
so instead of like so with a placeholder you can ask, okay, are you an elf or a dwarf, or like what is your species? But with character creator you can like select a whole story card about like a specific species, for example. So you could have story cards for elves, dwarfs, dragons, goblins, and the player could read the whole story card, like all of the options in the character selection itself. And they can like really figure out what kind of character they want to play instead of having to write everything themselves.
Yeah, so like in other words, it allows you to build almost like a character sheet in like a tabletop RPG sort of situation where you're essentially defining through the system things like races, classes, locations, and letting people kind of pick and choose and build a character from kind of like these pre-configured world properties that you've defined, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So
And the new
so in other
fun
words, it
thing
kind of gives you a little bit
is,
more I think this allows you to define characters that fit that have more detail and fit into a kind of specific world lore or anthology that has
Yeah,
kind of more predefined classes or like because I think there's a spectrum of scenarios, right? Like some are just simple prompts. It's like here's a story prompt and away you go, and those are great. But I feel like this, the character creator is more suited for the type of scenarios where people are trying to develop full worlds with kind of very specific I mean, all these things, right? Classes and
yeah.
races.
And
There's more specific rules to it.
yeah, and character creator was even called worlds at the very beginning because it just fit that kind of style better than scenarios. Usually, like story scenarios often can feel quite narrow from the opening. Like you always have this one defined prompt where it starts, but with character creator you can choose your location, you can choose your class, you can choose your race, your species, your like it doesn't have to always start at the same point.
Makes sense.
And the new fun thing is that placeholders actually also work in character creator, which wasn't possible before. So you can have any placeholders in any field, just as with the story, and they get added in addition to the usual character creator story card choosing questions.
So one question I have with this, and maybe I'm skipping ahead. You're welcome to tell me to wait. How do you kind of set up the start of a character creator scenario, and is it different from a regular story based scenario?
Yeah, for like a character creator scenario, the opening prompt, you can actually leave the opening prompt empty for these, which you can't really do for story scenarios as much.
Hmm.
But if you do add an opening prompt, then it should ideally be more an overview of the world instead of a narrow scoped like entrance.
Yeah, so maybe to say another way, like I think with more kind of narrowly defined story type scenarios, it's almost like a scene description. Like you're in a movie and there's a very specific scene where it's like this person enters from here and this is the specific location and this is exactly what's happening and here's a little bit of the backstory. Ready, go. It's almost like like an improv prompt, right? Where you've kind of defined all this and now you're kind of just like letting it go. Whereas with the character creator, um, you're letting it be more open and letting the characters that it get defined just get fed to the AI and let let the let the AI generate the initial prompt and I imagine from a creative perspective as a creator, I imagine the reason for that is because as a player is choosing their specific creator in this flow, they may choose a character that's very like who you choose as a character is going to change the trajectory of the story, and so you don't want to get overly prescriptive. It sounds like with the prompt in a character creator scenario because it could mismatch what they're choosing later on
Yeah,
using the selector. Is that kind of the,
yeah.
the philosophy
So
here?
let's say in like a story scenario, you might have an opening that says, okay, you are X and Y and you live on this street. For character creator, that just doesn't really work because people can choose which location they want to start as in character creator. They can choose who they are. They could choose what they are. And like just having an overview, like, okay, this is the world and this is what the world's about. Or like a major conflict in the world, if you like. for example, like Fiomar, which is a pretty big character creator scenario, or Feyron. And both of them like cover more the general overview of the whole world and overarching themes instead of the narrow this is what your character is, because that will be covered by the AI.
Gotcha. Cool. That makes sense. And it's helpful to just kind of think through that as you're creating this, because if you kind of like mismatch patterns or paradigms here, you may have the scenario may not play out as well as you're hoping. Tim, did we? You've been cranking here for a minute. Did we?
Yep, you filled the time.
We fill time. Are you ready to go?
Yep. So once you have your character creator scenario ready, when a player clicks play on it, they're going to have the option to quick start or create a character. Quick start will randomly select any of the available story cards that are options and create a scenario for you with that. Character creator lets the player go through each one and pick what they want. So I'm going to click character creator. So the first thing it's always going to ask you, even if you don't have a placeholder, is your character name and your gender. Let's just go Bob, male. So I included a placeholder. Oh, I forgot a parenthesis. That asked for what type of weapon Bob uses or has. So let's just say bow. Oh, see, I messed up my syntax. Oh no, that's from the story card. That's from the story card. See?
And you can now actually leave placeholders empty. You can just click next. You don't have to fill something out. It may look odd in like the final stuff, but you can just keep them empty if you want to. Or you can keep them empty and then go back later to like if you were still deciding on it and like wanted to see what other options there were.
What a rebel! You'll just hit next and not type anything in.
Yep. So
Unbelievable.
here is the story card selection. So here I had three options: Goblin, Marrow Spinner, and Dwarf. The Dwarf card was just a custom, was a placeholder with just the Dwarf name or the race placeholder as the name, the race placeholder in the description or the entry, and then the placeholder in the trigger. So that way, when you get to this step, it's going to show dwarf are rare.
And the really fun thing you can do with that is, let's say you have a placeholder like right before the race question that just says leave this blank if you want to choose a predefined race, fill it out if you want a custom one.
This is cool. It's nice that you can be. It's nice that you can see sort of what you're choosing from, because that's one of the things that sometimes, and this isn't just an AI dungeon issue that I have, but like when I play other RPGs, sometimes it's like choose your class, choose your race, choose your whatever, and I never really know like what it means, and maybe it's just because I'm not like a lot of them are like fantasy based, right? Like maybe I'm not smart enough to know like what a mage is and what are all the qualities that a mage is going to have and how is that going to impact the game. I do like that in the character creator you can kind of see exactly what it's saying about it, so that you can be a little bit more informed about, okay, this is what it means and this is maybe how it's going to inform the story. Because I don't know, maybe everyone else in the world besides me walks around with like a Wikipedia of fantasy character lore in their head that I just don't have. But I always get a little bit lost in some of the choosing things. So this is helpful to me.
it's also nice that creators can like customize. Like a dwarf for one scenario may not look the same as a dwarf for another scenario.
Hmm.
Like you can have creative choices, like, and they are like immediately visible to the player as they create their character.
That makes sense.
So as you finish up selecting your options, uh, the original prompt will be presented to the player, as well as what the AI generates. In addition to that, in Plot Essentials, it will automatically fill out your character's information from all the cards you selected. So it'll remember your name, your gender, your class, race, location, faction, and then any other custom categories you created for your character creation. It will then also uh, put in like your backstory for
Yeah,
your
the
character as well.
first paragraph that gets generated by the AI.
Hmm. And then up here, as I showed before, I had the what weapon do you use placeholder. I chose bow, and it went here as well.
I have a this is the product designer in me coming out for a minute. I have a critique of our own system here for a minute.
Go ahead.
It strikes me as kind of funny and odd that for character creator, because I think character creator to me is really well suited for the type of creator who wants to get in and spell out every detail of a scenario and build out a whole world, right? So I think
Hmm.
they care a lot about like making sure that everything is in just the right place and set up just perfectly. It's funny to me that we are pre-populating plot essentials for character creator, because I imagine that like character people creators using character creator would want more control there, whereas on the story scenarios, which are a little bit kind of like lighter weight, easier, you're on your own to create those. Like it almost feels flip flopped a little bit. Maybe, and you know, some of it obviously is because you want to generate it from what the player chooses, and I think that part makes sense. But there's a there's like a
Yeah.
mismatch here a little bit to me. I'm like, huh, interesting.
I
And
think in
so I'm
the
critiquing our
future,
product live in front of however many people are going to be watching this. So hooray for
I
that.
think in the future it would be nice if it were a little bit more customizable. Like if all of those, like if the well, name and gender are already like placeholders you can place anywhere. But like if class, race, location, if those were like things you could place wherever you wanted to as a scenario creator, I think that would be pretty nice.
Yeah,
So have like a default placeholder for like your class, race, location, faction,
Yeah, and
and
that
then you,
just fills out with what
yeah,
you choose.
that would be a nice change.
yeah. Because I could almost see like we've got placeholders for what you're asking the user. I could also see like placeholders for what the system is going to generate. You could, we could, in theory, this is getting really crazy, but you could have different, like properties that you configure. Like for the character information, maybe you could say like you don't want to have name, or you don't want to have race and location. You just want, these things. You could just kind of declare what you wanted, and then you could put, say I want it in plot essentials or I want it in a story card. Um, then you could kind of specify where it all goes. So I don't know, just thoughts that come to mind as I'm looking at this. Yeah, there's you're right. There's only 33 watching now, but these tend to get views. There's these tend to get views later. So in case people wonder, we self critique our own work from time to time. That's okay. It's all in the goal of trying to make AI Dungeon as awesome as we can. But it's just funny. I've gone through this a few times, and I haven't really, never really until like listening to you guys talk about this. I haven't really like seen the kind of. I don't know if I'd call it a mismatch, but it feels a little bit like a mismatch of like creator personas that we're building for here. So anyway, thoughts for the future. Whoever's in charge of things should do something about that.
All right. Any other final comments on character creator or?
I think we haven't touched on how to actually make the like choices, like add the
Well,
Oh
and
yeah.
we
story
also have
paths into
one.
that.
We also have one question in the comments for both of you. Tony. Tony, I can't even. My eyes are too bad. There's a lot of consonants all at once. I'm not giving it a try. Tony's asking, what do you guys like about the character creator process, like altogether? So, like as creators yourselves, what do you like about this format versus others, probably? Or why? Or what do you enjoy about even creating these type of scenarios?
I personally haven't used character creator a whole lot because my creation style is very like character focused, which now that I'm saying it out loud,
It's
sounds a
another
bit odd.
backwards feeling thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, very narrow character focused. Let's say it
Mhm.
like that. Like just a template people can fill out rather than having them define a lot of it.
Yeah.
I'm sort of in the same boat as Ben. Most of my scenarios, while most of them do like take place in like a single world, I usually like to have them focus in on this aspect of the world and you're exploring that part of it. So I haven't used character creator that much. The I do like how it's easier to customize your character over a placeholder because it's way easier to read and click through your options over having to read your question, think about your answer to it, type out your answer, hit next, see you have another one. It's a lot faster.
It it probably is a better like player experience if I had to
Hmm.
guess, but it also like if you're a creator and you have like a very narrow vision then of like a specific scenario you want to do, then oftentimes a story start can be better than a character creator start. But there's also like great character scenarios out there. Like I've mentioned like Fiomar, Faerun, like Michael and Onyx, who like made like really large worlds of those, and like there's just tons of options, and it's nice to just like go through as a player, like see what everything you can be.
Hmm.
Yeah. For me, like ironically, I think I lean more towards character creator because I think there's really kind of like this split. I think I think creators often come at this with one of like two ideas in their mind. One is like I have this story idea, and when you have a story idea, you go to the story version because it's like kind of like we talked about earlier. Like there's a very specific like movie scene that you're talking about, and
Hmm.
like even to what you're describing, Ben. Like I think your character based stuff isn't because the characters are thin, but that you're thinking about them in terms of like a very specific situation, or you have a very specific character already defined. You don't necessarily
Yeah,
you're not saying like there's a character and it could be one of 75 different options. It's this is my character, and you're mapping it out. And so that is like this is the I have a story I want to tell. So like I think that's one approach. Then I think the other creator persona is I'm imagining this world, and like you wake up and you've got like you have like ideas for different species or classes, and there's this internal conflict, and there's these locations over here, and I think that um, for people who are building character creator scenarios, it's like that world first approach where the story actually isn't forefront. It's like the world development. And I think creating the scenario itself becomes almost more fun than playing it, because you're kind of designing and you're kind of crafting this world and trying to think through how all the different pieces interconnect and are related to each other. And then as people go through and play it, they can, they can choose whatever entity they want. And in some ways, you as a creator don't care so much what's chosen, because they're in this world, and it's kind of exciting to see what comes out of it. Uh, Although I'm not a huge fan of like, I tend to play my own scenarios more than like my own adventures rather than reading other people's adventures. But as a creator, that is one place I do think it is nice to read other adventures, is because for the character creator stuff, like you never know where it's going to go, and so that could be kind of surprising to be like, whoa, that went kind of a wild direction. That's different than I expected. And granted, there's probably nuance between those two, but that's kind of how I think about it. It's like, am I starting with a story? Go make a story scenario. If I'm starting with a world idea, go do a character creator scenario. That's how I think about it. But I think both of you are more story oriented creators, is my guess, and also what you're hearing, what I'm hearing you say.
Yeah, that's probably a good summary of it.
Sweet, I get it. Probably, I'll take it.
So Ben mentioned we didn't really cover how to make a character creator story card. So when you have character creator, your default options are class, race, location, factions. And then you also have custom fields you can do. So I'm just going to do a custom field. So your first thing is you can pick a name for it. Let's just go with weapon, because that's an easy one. So that will bring up the story card creator, which if you click open the types, you can see class, race, location, faction, custom, and character. All of these pretty much only matter with a character creator scenario. Outside of here, the type doesn't really matter at all.
Yeah, it's just for organization purposes outside
Yeah.
of it.
So when you have a custom type, you just type it in, click, make sure your type is custom, and type what you want. So bow. Bows are a long range weapon. With character creator, story cards, you sometimes don't need to include a trigger. Sometimes you only need the information from it in during the generation process
Yeah.
when it's making the opening for you.
So all of the story cards you choose are included into the context of the opening. But after a few like turns, it will like then fall out of the context window unless you set up the triggers for it.
Mm-hmm. So it it kind of depends on the scenario you're setting up. If you know it's something that's only going to matter in the very opening, you don't need a trigger. If it's something you still want to come back up later, you would want to include a trigger. In addition to making your own, you can also just click the create it for me option, which will use our story card generator feature to automatically fill out everything for you. So it made thumb knuckles.
Oh, thumb knuckles.
Yeah.
I knew like brass knuckles. I never heard of I thought that was like a silly thing, but it almost sounds real. Is that like a real thing?
If it's over the user's thumb, harvest the sound of a struck object. Capture the ringing tone produced upon impact.
Sheesh.
The story card creator or the story card generator can have some interesting ideas
Yeah,
sometimes. So it can be fun to just let it do its thing and come up with something.
yeah. And all of the like story cards you see in this like screen right there is are the story cards the player can choose during character creation for each different category.
Hmm. So if I were to click the X on Baker, it removes it from the list. But if I go to my story card options, Baker is still here. And then, yeah. The last thing about Character Creator is when the scenario opening prompt is being generated for the player, it does not use their selected model. We have our own side model that's trained for that generation. Some people think it uses their current model.
I like the idea of having a side model. The phrasing of that was
It's a
lovely.
helper model, if you will.
Yeah, we have a specialized model for for story start.
All right. The last thing is multiple choice. This one is a little weird because this is not a specific like style of scenario opening. This is more of a way of presenting different scenarios to the player. So when you select multiple choice, you have an opening that will be presented to them, which that's a good spot to present like here's some world information or here's what these different choices mean.
And these, like this text right there, will not be shown to the AI. This is only player facing. So you can give the player info here that you want them to know, but that you don't want the AI to know.
Are you saying the title
Or
for the choices or the description above doesn't get shown to the player, or both?
Both.
both.
These are
Or
only
sorry, it
player
doesn't go to
facing.
the AI. So it doesn't go to the AI. Only goes to the player.
Only
Correct.
goes to the player. So if you want this info to also go to the AI, then you will have to include it somewhere else, like in in the actual choices themselves.
Hmm. Okay.
So here I just have it let you pick either like Fire Queen or Ice Queen because that's what I have here in the opening. So if I click on Configure Fire Queen, it'll take you to a story scenario, which you can then further change into a character creator scenario if that's what you want. You also have the option of adding a choice to Fire Queen, which will then give you some more options on how to take it. So you could say you're a villager or you're a guard.
And this is kind of the thing that sometimes lays in the middle of like character creator and story scenarios. Because as we mentioned before, for story scenarios you can have a very narrow like scene description. With character creator you have the world. With multiple choice you could have a world option. You could have multiple different scene options and just let the player choose through all of them. And like once they have their end choice selected, that's when like the normal story or character creator like flow starts as it would with just a simple story or character scenario. So it's just a way to package multiple scenarios into a single one.
I don't know how this is going to react because I don't have any options here. All right, it just made stuff up.
It
That's
does.
that side model of yours doing good work.
Yep.
So
That's gonna be our new inside joke. Got a side model.
I didn't know what to call it.
I'm glad you didn't. Now we've been blessed with this gift of having a side model. This is great.
So as you can see, as I click on these different options, it's taking me into different scenario types, the ones I selected. So Ice Queen, I did not um, make it have additional options to select from. It just goes straight into a story scenario. While Fire Queen lets you click on Villager or Guard, Villager is set to take you into a story scenario, while Guard takes you into a character creator scenario. So you can mix and match how you want it.
Yeah, this is cool. I like Nikolai. I hadn't really thought of it this the way, but the way you described it's sort of a hybrid between story and character creator makes a lot of sense because it's like a way to do like branched decisions. Um, and what's interesting is like the way that people use these has been I think multiple choice has the widest kind of I think it's created the most like diverse set of like unique ways of using the format, if that makes sense. Because I think there's some people who have used it to do kind of what you described of like, let's say there's kind of like one general story concept, but you want to let people choose from several predefined characters. Well, those could be unique, um, those could be unique characters that and they're putting to scenarios that just happen to be the same because you could have those scenarios essentially be the same, just a different character inserted. We've seen some like that, so that gives you sort of like this way to kind of pick and choose some character choices and then get dropped in. We've seen some that are like these totally different stories where it's like in some ways they're building like a version of our AI Dungeon Quick Start where it's like, do you want fantasy, sci-fi, romance, whatever? And like you're building like this world. It's like a library of scenarios inside of the multiple choice scenario. And so it becomes like this conglomerate of all these different options you could choose from in one. I mean, that's another thing that we've seen. There's just a bunch of the different there's just a bunch of different ways to use multiple choice. And I think what's interesting about this one is I think the creative possibilities on this one are probably the widest,
Mm-hmm.
which is kind of fun to see. So I think we see a lot of the more. Uh, I don't think it's a coincidence that many of the more uh, the creators who've like really explored creative possibilities the most find themselves in multiple choice very often because I think it offers the most possibilities. I mean, by definition, it you can have the story and the character creator inside of it. So
yeah.
it is the climax of that. So it makes sense.
Um, I think that's pretty much it for your options. There's one last quick little thing I want to cover. Let's say you go through and you make a multiple choice and you say you don't want that. Uh, you can easily switch back to any other option. Let's say you want to go to story. It'll go back to story and it saves everything you have previously done in whatever option you had. So let's say I go back to story, I make my story scenario, and I think, oh, I don't actually like this. I want to go back to multiple choice. It'll keep everything I had done. So you can go right back into editing what you wanted.
And some fields like also populate down to the like lower choices, like the end choices
Mm-hmm.
of multiple choice, which nowadays makes them a lot easier to create if you have like just a minor change. Like let's say you have like the same 10 story cards in like let's say you want the same 10 story cards in every choice, but you want a different plot essentials for every choice, then the story cards can actually like automatically populate into the lower choices.
I hadn't even thought about doing that way. But the crazy thing is, I've probably played scenarios where people have done that, and I just didn't even realize it.
It is a rather new thing, which it was frankly painful to make multiple choice scenarios like that before that existed. So
I can imagine.
It's
I remember a long 2 hour session of updating 46 choices in one of my scenarios.
Oof.
my biggest one has 13 options, and I can't imagine doing one with 46.
Yep.
That'd be tough. I just had another idea for this. Oh man. this we should stop doing this. I'm gonna come up with more. We already have enough work to do. I don't need to invent more. All right, I have an idea for a new plot component. Because we have the placeholders for users to fill out. But imagine if you had a place for creators to put their own placeholders in. And so you could basically kind of establish a key and a value. So you could say like this is, you could have like a location description. You know, this is Tatooine. You know, you describe Tatooine, and then anywhere within your scenario, whether it's like in a multiple choice thread or whatever, you could reference the creator defined placeholder, and then it would just be updated in all the places, right? So you just have a single kind of place that you could update your creator placeholders, and then all of the other places that you're using it would just get populated that way.
Essentially
slick.
linking text blocks together.
Yeah, like, but it would be more of like a master file. Then, well, maybe you and I maybe have a different understanding of what you mean by linking blocks, but yeah, like it basically would be like you're creating like a reference sheet, and then the rest, anytime you want to reference those things, you could just kind of insert the placeholder and let it get picked up. That could be kind of cool. That also doesn't seem like it'd be crazy because we sort of have placeholder functionality already today.
I get what you're saying, Devin. Like, I get your vision. I think the thing that would help with would be saving space for creators in terms of like character limits that we have inside character in scenario creation. So, for example, uh, s- in the opening, you only have 4,000 characters you can type. But with your idea, you could, in theory, have a lot more.
Sure, you might break it. But yeah, that'd be a detail to figure out. That's for sure. Because you're right. Like people could get themselves in trouble if they make it too long. But um, I don't know. Seems like that could be interesting to an interesting way to save creators some time. Because I do know that that is like Nikolai. I mean, what you described, like going through 46 different scenarios and updating something that's essentially the same. If you just had like a reference file at the top, it's like, hey, here's all my variables. If you just update the variable one place, you know, as long as it's just referenced correctly in all the nested children, then you wouldn't have to update it in all the places.
Yeah.
Just a thought. Just a thought. Someone should record this. We're just spouting off all kinds of crazy ideas here. The funny thing is that like creators are probably watching this, be like, "What are you talking about? None of this is even like useful." So, I mean, even the two of you don't seem particularly thrilled about that idea. So, could be terrible.
I see
That's
the
okay.
merit of it.
You wouldn't say no. All right, sorry, I've derailed. Tim, is there anything else you want to cover on the multiple choice?
I think that's it for multiple choice. Ben, do you have anything else to add?
I don't think so.
All right, I think that covers pretty much everything because we are kind of at time.
We are. Cool. This is a good walkthrough. Um, it's always amazing as we dive into these things how many little details and nuance and tips and tricks there are. Um, and I always appreciate as well the more of the creative angle, just because I haven't had the same let's call it community success with my content um, as you guys have. So I like hearing a little bit more about the creative process, like how do you actually use it and what does it actually mean and why would you use it. You know, it's like if someone hands me a hammer, doesn't mean I'm going to build a house, right? It's the tools are available, but it does take some practice and some creativity to make something that you're really proud of and enjoy, and that's part of the fun. I mean, that's part of why I think why this is enjoyable. It's a creative process, and it's iterative. You learn from it, and I think that's part of what makes it enjoyable. But appreciate you sharing it. Thanks as well to everyone in the comments uh, who joined us on the live stream today. Feel free to let us know if there are other topics that we needed to cover in more detail. We could do another one of these where we talk about more creation tips and tricks. That's all I got. Any final words, Nikolai, Tim?
I think that's it.
Yep.
Okay, sounds good. Well, in that case, thanks everyone. We'll see you on the next stream.
See ya.
See you.